My name is Grace, and I live with my mother and my little brother, Felix. My father abandoned my mother right after she gave birth to me, so I barely knew him, leaving just me and her for a while. Then, she met another man, and they soon started dating. After that, they had my brother, Felix. I guess he's more like my half-brother, but that never bothered me. When Felix was born, my mother doted on him, and his father both. I loved my brother a lot, but I never saw my mother so happy with him. As Felix grew up, I realized my mom loved him more than me. He always got the new clothes, the new toys, everything. I got the leftovers if I was lucky. I tried to ask my mom for some extra school supplies, but she basically ignored me. It only got worse as we both grew up. Felix realized he was my mom and her boyfriend's favorite, and he began to use it to his advantage. He'd take my things, call me a bunch of names, and even blame me for the trouble he got in. My mom always took his side over mine, and I was getting pretty fed up with it. By the time I was in high school, Felix was only a few years younger than me, but he was already the worst person I'd ever met. His ego was huge, and thanks to my mom, he always thought he was better than everyone else around him. I had to put up with it, but I was getting really tired of him though. He always bragged about his new clothes and his expensive lunches to his friends. Then, he had his 16th birthday. I couldn't believe it! He got a new car for his birthday? For my birthday that year, my mom got me a lousy store-bought card. She'd promised me before she met Felix's dad that I could have that exact car on my 16th birthday. I asked her about it after I saw the gift, and she told me, "Sorry, we just don't have the money right now. If you want a car, you'll have to go out and earn the money yourself." I was mad at my mom for lying to me like that. She gave away the car she promised me to my spoiled brother Felix. For the rest of the week, my mom basically ignored me. She didn't even set a place for me at the table for family dinners. She barely ever talked to me and never wanted to spend time with me, only wanting to spend time with Felix instead. I'd had enough, and I wanted to be out of the house for a while, so I decided to go for a walk. While I was on my walk, I felt horrible. It was like my own mother chose Felix over me. Just when I thought I couldn't feel any worse, I saw Felix in his new car driving down the road towards me. I hid my face because I didn't want to talk to him, and luckily, he didn't see me. But I noticed his car pull into a nearby parking lot. I let my curiosity get the better of me, and I approached it carefully. It looked like they hadn't seen me still, so I got even closer and looked inside the car. I was horrified. Behind the driver's seat, Felix had an open beer in his hand and more empty cans around him. I decided to confront him and talk to him about it. When he saw me, he just laughed and told me that he knew what he was doing. Felix and his friends started to make fun of me, teasing me about how neither of my parents loved me. Felix even said he heard my mother talking about how much she hated me behind my back. The worst part was that I couldn't tell if he was lying or not. I couldn't help it, and I started to cry. I left the parking lot and started to walk back home, but I couldn't stop thinking about how awful my life had become since Felix came into it. Just when I thought my night couldn't get worse, I heard a siren behind me. I saw the red and blue lights as a police car pulled up beside me. I was terrified. I had never gotten in trouble for anything with the police before. The officer rolled down his window, and I prepared myself for jail. But the officer was kind to me and explained I wasn't in any trouble. He saw me crying all alone and wanted to make sure I was okay. I told him I was fine, and he offered me a ride. I agreed and got in the car with him. While we were driving back to my house, some maniac sped past us. That's when I finally was able to get my sweet revenge. "Officer, I think that driver is drunk." The officer sped after the car and turned on the siren. They pulled over, and the police went to greet them. I was right. It was Felix behind the wheel. I smirked to myself as the officer placed him under arrest. Good thing I recognized the car. The officer dropped me off at home safely and took Felix down to the police station, where my mom had to go bail him out. And she was not happy about it one bit. In fact, she went over to the station herself and caused such a big commotion that she was thrown into a cell for causing a scene. And guess who she called to come bail the both of them out? Yep, me. But I just told her how badly she was treating me and that she deserved to be there for a while, then hung up the phone. Maybe a few days in the cells would teach them both a lesson. When she got out, my mother was very sorry for the way she acted and took the car keys away from Felix. She gave them to me instead and changed her whole attitude. Ever since that day, she's treated me like how she's supposed to and sees Felix for the spoiled kid he is. Felix spent a few days in prison to scare him, and when he came back, he was the same old Felix. Bragging about his stuff and his time in jail, but this time, my mother wasn't supporting him. He's still a brat, but at least I have my mom back on my side again, and life is pretty great! Thanks for watching! Like, share, and subscribe!